everyone, this is Sunniva.
And this is Johannes.
And you are watching Board Gaming Ramblings.
And today we are taking a look at Shogun no Katana. This is a new game designed by P.S. Mortensen and Federico Randesso.
It plays from 1 to 4 players in 45 minutes per player.
Yes, we backed this game on Kickstarter, just so you know it, and we got the game, now we play the game, and now we're gonna talk about it.
You know the drill.
Yes, in Shogun no Katana you are sword makers or katana makers, and you're trying to make swords. But you can make sword for people and for different armies, and you'll also be making a sword for the Shogun called the Shogun no Katana. That's where the name of the game comes from. This game is in many ways a pretty standard, straightforward worker placement game where you're gonna place a worker on a spot and do the action that it has, like a normal worker placement space. A couple of the worker placement spaces has kind of a follow action, so the other players get to do something, which adding a bit of interactivity. And you also have a special worker, a monk, which adds a bonus action to the actions that you're doing. The big difference in this game is that you have this forge board where you are trying to plan all of these swords, because they move around on this forge board depending on what ingredients or materials you need to place in them to make the sword, which is kind of like the core different puzzle of this game, which also you can do horrible in and make yourself be able to do nothing. And you're gonna play 4 rounds, and after 4 rounds the player who has the most points is going to be the winner after some final scoring and stuff, but we're not going into detail of that. All in all, very distilled overview, it's a worker placement game about making swords.
Yes.
Let's talk about stuff.
Yeah, the game looks really good. We have the deluxe edition, which has these beautifully made miniatures, but the retail also looks pretty good. I think that the artwork in this game is really nice, but it is a big game because you have the main board and you have your forge board and a personal board in addition to that.
Yeah, just to make sure, like, the only additions to the deluxe editions are the metal coins and the holders for the resources.
Oh,
so everything else is...
You get the miniatures?
Yeah.
Oh, that is really
or else
good.
It would be like a cube, I don't know. Like, yeah, that's the only...
They look amazing, so it's a really nice production for this game.
This game also has a rule book. It's not like, oh, you get the miniatures, but you don't get the rule book. You need a deluxe edition for that. It has a rule book. The rule book is... some pages long, 23, 24 pages long.
Some pages long.
It's some pages long. It is pretty well laid out, loads of pictures, like you get loads of examples on how it works. I think it is a well laid out rulebook. I had not any problems reading it. It has also some very nice people playing the game when you read it. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't read it, go and check it out. The biggest difference here from any other game is the forge board, and they take a lot of time explaining how that works, because most of everything else is like, if you never played a worker placement game, you're still gonna know how it works, but if you have, it's gonna be the same as you always now place the worker, do the stuff, but the forge board and delivering on the swords is like the biggest thing, and the Shogun no Katana, and all of that is very well laid out. And just to make sure you know, half of the rulebook is actually like the solo rules, so the actual rules to the game is only 16 pages long, and that includes the front page and the setup. So I would say it's a good rule book. Does it have a play rate?
No, sadly not. It wasn't a huge problem for this game, but just please add them always. You know how we feel about that.
Yes, I never play a game where somebody is not asking, where is the play rate?
Yes.
Because for me, I have the rules in here, and I read the rules and I teach the rules, so it's very easy for me to remember stuff. But when you just hear the stuff one time and you haven't read anything and you haven't seen other components...
And when I sleep through the rules, it's really nice to have a play rate.
Yeah, because if you didn't know, Sunniva does that most of the time, and still she wins, which is horrible. Let's talk about another thing that might be horrible.
Yes,
the playtime and the player count.
This game with 2 and 4 players, and this is a fairly long game, especially with...
it's not a fairly long game. It's horribly long game.
It's a long game. But the 4-player game that I've played was the first time that we played it. Yeah. So that took like a long time. I don't remember how long, but it was long.
3.5 hours.
Oh yeah, that's long. With 2 players, it went a lot quicker. Only like 90 minutes.
Yeah, and the other 4-player games I played was like 4 hours, something like that, which is too long. Like, this game is good, spoiler alert, but it's not 4 hours good. So I will never play it with 4 players again, ever.
Yeah, because you can get the playtime down some, but the intricate puzzle on your sword making forge board can be very AP triggering, so I don't think that you can get it done a lot with 4 players. I think like 2 and 3 players is the player count for this game.
Yeah, many times this is happening, and it's not a new thing. Like, sadly, we haven't played the 3-player count, but usually, like, if you take the max amount of players and you subtract 1, that's usually the best player count.
Yeah.
Like, because 2 players was good, but there is quite a bit of, not quite a bit, but there's more interaction here than in many other worker placement games, which you kind of lose out a bit with 2 players.
Yes, I agree.
So I think like the interaction in 4 is better than with 2.
I agree.
But the playtime in 2 is better than with 4.
Yes.
So merge them together and you get this magical place in the middle of 3 players that we sadly haven't played, but we would have loved to do so. Let's talk about the game. The game has, most of it, as I said in the overview, is standard worker placement. Like, if you do not like worker placement games, you will probably not like this game, depending on why you do not like worker placement games, because most of it is like normal stuff.
Yes.
And then you add in the 2 actions that has kind of a follow action, like the I do something and you get to do something just a little bit worse, and I really like that.
I agree. It is a very loose worker placement game compared to a lot of the tighter ones. I didn't feel like, oh, I need that action spot, like I can't do anything if I don't get that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And some of the worker placement spaces are very, like, it feels very open at the beginning of the round, nothing that you're rushing to do. But towards like the end of the round, when there's maybe like 1 spot left on that particular one, you might be biting your teeth, nails or something.
Biting your teeth. I'm gonna do that. Teeth.
But I like the follow action. I think that it adds another layer to the game, and also that when I do that action, I want to make sure that you other guys don't get to do a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah, because the timing here is pretty important. I feel like that you do the stuff in the correct order, and sometimes you might be like in the same order of things than other players, not that you have to do things in the same way, and not that you have to do the same things. There's different pots to go down. You have to make swords. That's kind of,
yeah,
you cannot win this game without making swords, because that's kind of the whole thing of the game. But there's like you can go a big strategy on doing decorations, for example, on your swords, and if you do that, the other people get to decorate a little bit, but maybe you get to decorate more if you are able to time that in a good way. So the timing is very interesting, and you also have these special workers, the monks.
Oh, I like those.
That starts out being not super expensive, and they end up being super expensive.
Yeah, but you also get more money throughout the game, so I think that escalation
depending on your strategy.
That's true. I think that escalation works, but sometimes you're sitting and you're making your plan of the round so that you can afford that extra monk, which is really, I think it's not like make it or break it.
Nope.
If you get to use both of them or no one, but it's really nice to have those extra actions basically.
And they give like a little bit of bonus, so usually a bit better to use, especially on the forge board, and make the puzzle a bit smoother. The thing I like though is that if you go for like a big money strategy, you don't really have to, because the more swords you deliver, the more workers you release. So you get to have more workers. That's the way you get more workers in this game. So if you go for like having enough money to always get the monks, you don't have to like force out like 2 small swords in the beginning to get that next worker, which I really enjoyed, because there's kind of, last time we played, I was trying to get those workers as fast as possible, which gave me like a boost in the beginning, but then you came back with some bigger swords at the end, and also I made my puzzle impossible to solve, so I couldn't move anything around, and that makes it like you can go different routes basically down those different paths. I think the biggest thing in the game, like the everything is fun. Like the worker placement and all of that is a fun thing, but the innovation, the new thing here is the forge board.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is what I think is the most fun with the game. Like the worker placement is also, it works nicely, and the interaction is neat. But this is kind of the core of the game, the forge board, and it's a really satisfying puzzle when you're like visualizing in your mind where like the path of the, because it's kind of makes a path depending on what materials you need to put in your sword.
Yeah, that's super quickly how it works if you haven't seen anything of it. Let's say my sword needs a wood, and then a stone, and then a stone, and then a wood, and then a wood. That might be like the recipe that is on it, and then it's going to start at the end of there's different rows which have the different resources. You can see pictures, and it's going to start on the where the first resource is, and when you like it to move it, you move it one space towards the resource, and then you place the resource. Let's say it's wood, it's going to go here, put in the wood, and then it's going to be stone. Next time I put it, I'm going to go down, which is a stone row, and now put it into stone, and then it might be stone again, or it might be wood again. And so you know exactly where they're going to end, and you're kind of trying to, which I didn't do at all, put in things that don't crash, so that you don't have like 3 things that need to be in the same place at the same time.
Yes, and you also want to kind of put them aligned so that you, when you place a worker in like a row or column, you can move more things at the same time, so you can be more efficient.
Yeah, this puzzle is kind of the main new thing. So if you are looking for like new things, I feel like last year we talked a lot about worker placement games with a twist. And this is another one of those, like taking that well-known cozy thing that I really like, worker placement games. I think it's a really nice way of doing a game, and adding something new to it. And here also with these things, which adds a bit more of the interaction as well. Like we talked about already, I feel like if you hate worker placement games for only being, oh, you blocked my spot, then here is less about blocking. Like later in the game, a space might get filled up, but in the beginning you usually can go wherever you want. Like a sword can be taken that you wanted, of course, and later in the game you can also like add this, or they get filled up the row, but it's not like there's one place to go under this action. There's like one more than the number of players. So there's kind of less blocking, but more interaction in other ways. So if you don't like worker placement games, for this is kind of who is it for, but I don't care. It will be maybe better for that. One thing I want to add is that there is this expansion that is in the deluxe edition that is not in the retail edition, but you can buy it, which is the wandering characters.
Oh, I like
which
that.
kind of adds a little bit to the game. It adds, of course, a little bit thinking, but also makes the selection of the actions even more interesting. You're going to have 4 different miniatures placed around the board in the beginning, and every time you move to an action where they are, or when in the swords to the specific sword where they are, you can move that character to another place on the board wherever you want, and then do an action associated with that. So sometimes you might do a strategy based on that, and you try to move it to somewhere you don't think other will move, and then you can move it and trigger that person again and do that action or score those victory points. So it's just like a little thing, not needed. We have played without it as well, no problem, but I think it adds to the depth of the game.
I agree. I really like placing it on, for example, the decoration space, because I don't want to do that action myself, but then maybe I can push you to do it, so that I get the bonus.
So let's talk a bit about weight and who is it for.
I think this is a medium to heavy game. The forge puzzle is really like the elevating part to like both the rules complexity and like the length of the game. And I think that you have to not mind that the games go long to not be like getting a lot of downtime in this game. You do stuff when it's not your turn, because some might
stuff,
but if a player really gets stuck on their forge board, it's gonna take a little while, so you have to either not play it at max or not mind the long games.
Yeah, I think like I don't think this is one I would recommend for 4. I think 2 players is good, and I'm guessing, since we sadly haven't played it,
I
3
think
players
that 3 players is
gonna
the best.
be like the
best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds is probably a song.
Hannah
and also,
Montana.
and as I said, like if you love worker placement games and you need something with a little bit of twist, this might be for you. And if you love puzzles, like if you enjoy, like we really enjoy these kind of puzzles, and it's kind of a spatial puzzle in a way I haven't seen it done before, so that is also a huge plus if you enjoy those kind of things. So do you want to do some final thoughts?
Yes, I think that I've talked about what I like and not like already. I really love the puzzle. I think that the worker placement is great. I think like just it's an overall really nice game. It's so crunchy, but it's not like mind-blowing, and yeah, I like that you can kind of decide yourself how hard that puzzle should be. You could take like the easier swords, or you can take the really hard swords, and you can decide yourself how many swords you want to manage at the same time. I just really enjoy the game. The main negative point is that it takes too long. Because I really enjoyed the interaction with 4. I like how the meat of the game felt more complete in a 4-player game than in a 2-player game, but it just takes too long, and that sadly drags it down from being like the perfect game for me. I still think it's a great game, so I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, I agree with basically almost everything you said. I think it's a lot of fun. I would love to play it with 3, and I think that would be like the perfect thing, which I said 600 times already in this video. I think that there is many paths to victory, of course, including making the swords, because you have to. There's clever things in it. The end of round scorings we haven't talked about, like where you draft these cards basically. So sometimes you want to pause to get a end of game scoring card that you really want, instead of buying that monk, which is giving you like a subpar action. It's better to get this thing that will give you lots of points at the end of the game. And there's so many different choices to make. I think that if you could make it shorter somehow, I would like it even more. But I think there's like just a lot of fun playing this game. And I'm also going to give it an 8 for all the reasons that we have already talked about. And if you are new to this channel, or anything in this video just gave you something, maybe you found out, oh, this might be a game I want to buy, or maybe you found out this game is not for me, or if you just do not dislike us, then you can help us out in a big way, which is small for you and big for us, which is giving us a victory point. And how does that work? Sunniva is here with a tutorial.
We need victory points to win in the game of life and YouTube, and you can give us that by clicking the subscribe button below. You can also click the bell to get notifications every time we post a new video.
And that is the end of this video. A new one is coming soon. I'm Johannes.
I'm Sunniva.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings, and bye bye.